Think we're ready? What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? How you guys doing today? Happy Thursday. This is my favorite day to do commentary. Happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Love Thursday. I hope you guys are having a great, happy Thursday with me on Tim's and Tim's on Demand. Before we get started with our Love Thursday, part two of Interracial Love, first of all, I want to give a shout out for everybody that's viewing my channel. And if this is the channel for you, please consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the like button, also hitting that notification button. That way you know when new content is being presented, and also share with like-minded people like yourself, okay? Also, guys, let me just say this. I got the fashion channel up and moving. Yesterday I had to do some beats and so forth and create some tunes and so forth because I got some upcoming projects and stuff. So that's why you saw me in the studio. But yeah, man, today is Love Thursday. And before I also start this, let me also say that I am not a licensed therapist or a doctor, nor do I strive to be one. But I'm just a guy with a video camera, nice high quality, by the way, and testing 1 2, testing 1 2 3, testing, testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. Okay, sorry about that. And no, I am not editing any of this. So yes, it's working. Yeah, this went out, but I got a second one that I use, receiver. So let me test it again. Testing 1 2 3, testing. Testing 1 2 3. Okay. So we're back. So what are we talking about, guys? Let me just say this before my other receiver went out. Get back in this charger. Like I was stating earlier, guys, listen, I am not a licensed professional. I'm just a guy with a camera and a microphone and 2 receivers, giving you guys my opinion and my advice and giving you information about my personal life, okay? And how I navigate through life, through this journey called life. And everybody's journey is different, guys, okay? Everybody's journey is not the same, guys, okay? Everybody's journey is different, all right? And what are we talking about today? We're talking about part 2 of Interracial Love, and based on my personal life, not nobody else's, but my personal experience, my personal life, okay? And I'm not a part of the manosphere or the black manosphere or none of that, okay? I'm just a guy who trying to find his niche here on this YouTube streaming. So far it's been motivational entertainment, but I'm gonna have to change the format after giving you guys 12 weeks of me, throwing information out here, and then make it really more entertaining than what it really is right now. But I'm just so brand new, I haven't started doing a live stream. But with that being said, you guys, let's just go ahead and get into this. All right. This is about your dude, Tim. So the last time I was talking about how society and the negative things and how social media looks at especially black men in interracial relationship, not so much as black women because that's acceptable in movies, commercials, everybody else, it's all acceptable. But the black man, oh, no, 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 no. You can't do that, right? When actually, in reality, we've been a part of interracial relationships for many decades in the real world. It may not been advertised, but in the real world, we've been everybody, especially international guys. That's why I tell people to get their passport and view the world. I mean, it don't have to be so much as black and white relations. It could be black and Asian, black and Hispanic, black and Middle East, whatever the race is. Even other cultures of black females. You know what I mean, or whatever race they are. That's considered as interracial, as an American saying. We're the most desired guys. Believe it or not, black men are desired outside of here. Now, here in America, the culture is different. I mean, it's anything but black, but still, I found out that the women here, even though they try to play the little game, they still desire black men. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys, because unfortunately, we're the most hated group here. Unfortunately, I don't know why. We never done anything to anybody. I mean, I know why, but it is what it is, right? But let me just speak on my personal experience. In the midst of all the hate and despair, there's a positive side to all of this. And guys, you got one life, just one life to live, all right? One go around. You was the lucky sperm out of millions of sperms that made it to the egg, okay? That's why I don't understand why people commit suicide, because God has ordained and blessed you to be on this earth no matter what race you are, or no matter what circumstances or situation that you are. God put you here for a reason. Out of all these other cells and sperms coming to that egg, you won. You won. And people need to mind their own business. Instead of trying to control other people's life. Look, this is the way I feel about situations like interracial relationships and other relationships and so forth. If it's not concerning you and if it's not hurting you and we're all adults here, then what the hell you got to do with this? Keeping the race pure and all this other. And I'm not just talking about white people. I'm talking about blacks and other races too. What the hell do you got to do with this? Mind your own business and live your own life. How about you do that? But I said I was going to take this into the positive realm, so that's what I'm going to do, guys, okay? I just had to get that part out. So, let's go back to the early 70s. My mother realized when I was about 2 years old, okay? And I think we were somewhere in a supermarket or somewhere from the story that she told me. There was a white lady, and this was during the early, I want to say 70, 71, 72, maybe 73, during the Vietnam War and all this kind of stuff. She was in a supermarket, and she was saying that as a little boy, there was this blonde, white female lady that I was cuckoo and and flirting with and so forth. And the lady actually was enjoying the attention. And she was just like, oh, my son, he was just looking, and the lady was like, oh, no, that's okay, it's okay. I enjoy the attention, and I thought it was cute and, special that your son just admired that. And she just from what she told me, she acknowledged and recognized that from that small, short time on when I was a little kid, growing up, that that I had a preference, but I didn't realize it at the time because I was just a little boy, and a lot of my cousins and family members that were kids as well, they used to tease me about it. I can remember also on my 5th birthday, and I still got this picture circulating somewhere. It was a birthday party, and they had the real icing that I like, not that cream crap that they got today. Back in the '70s, they had the big cake, and we was all over my grandmother's house in Alachua, Florida, and I had this little purple bite with the little tassels out on the side, and it was just a good time, and I had all my cousins and all my friends that was in the Alachua area, Gainesville, Alachua area, and I was living in Jacksonville, of course, but they was in the Alachua area. Anyway, there was this little girl. It was a black girl with little pigtails back in the '70s, and it was people outside of my parents and relatives was trying to force me to take this. Not so much as force, but they were just pushing this girl on me to take this picture, and I could never forget this. And I thought it was funny at the time. I mean, I didn't get it. I was just a little kid. It didn't bother me either way. But they were just pushing this little girl on me, and she was just kind of looking around, and we were just kids. We just wanted to have fun. But somebody made a comment where your child, he's got to get with the brother and sisterhood and all this other stuff, and black power and all this kind of stuff. Because this was in the early '70s. But my parents looked at it like, these are just damn kids. Let them have fun, And they pushed this picture on us, and we were just me and the little girl, and they made me put my arm around her and all this, and we just wanted to have fun, guys. We were just little kids. We didn't care about all that other stuff. And I remember another time where I was in one of the first integrated schools down here in the South, and my dad was in the education field, and somebody reported something to him, and it was a lady was saying, your son is flirting with white females, and my dad was just like, he's a kid, kids, they Google eye each other all the time, and it was just all kinds of stuff like that growing up, guys. And then I can remember in 1976 when they had the first Charlie's Angels episode came out. I was sitting on this couch. I'll never forget it. I was laying on a couch. I was about 6 years old. And, I had got introduced to this show. And see, back then they had, these shows were the first time coming out on TV like that. Your Charlie's Angels, your Fantasy Islands, All in the Family. That was kind of like shock TV. The Jeffersons and, all of these different and variety shows. So the '70s was like a coming out for TV. It was a pre-HBO, pre-24 hours thing, and everything was just brand new. You even had the Jackson's Hour. All of these Carol Burnett variety shows, all of these different shows was out and about, And, I was a big fan of the $6 Million Man. And come to find out, Lee Major's wife, I think they were on Johnny Carson, if my correction, or one of these shows. And he presented his wife, Farrah Fawcett. And that was my first time seeing her. And back then, she was just like this gorgeous model. and she had the big hair, and she had this perfect hair that women loved, and she had this little signature flip out. And I'm gonna tell you, not only did white women admire her, but black women did too. I mean, yes, back then they had the black pride with the afro and the hoop earrings and so forth, and that was all wonderful and great. But I can certainly remember when they had a lot of black girls who used to have the little Farrah Fawcett, excuse me, flip out, and that was the style. I mean, you've seen it on movies like Car Wash and those all of those signature movies back in the '70s. Everybody had the Farrah Fawcett look, and women back then they had the gachos with the boots and Jordache jeans and all of this kind of stuff that led into from the '70s to the '80s. I remember it like on a dime as a little kid, all the way growing up. But and I had in my mind the ideal woman was. At that time was Sharon Tate. She was my number one. Sharon Tate, unfortunately, how she passed away was tragic. Also, I had Farrah Fawcett, Olivia Newton-John, and then there was a show called Three's Company that I really liked the women on there. My favorite, the one that I had a crush on, was Jenny Lee Harrison. She was my favorite. The woman that played Cindy. She was my ideal woman. Out of all the women I've seen on TV, she for some reason I just liked Jenny Lee Harrison. The other women were very attractive, very talented. Most people went for the Suzanne Summer. I mean, I was a fan of hers, but she wasn't my type, if that makes any sense. I thought she was a very attractive woman, very, very talented lady, but she just wasn't my type. But the Jenny Lee Harrison, she was definitely my type, just in real life. The only problem was, guys, is that I was like 9, 10, 11 admiring all of these women on TV. And these women were like 21 and up. I'm just this little kid, 11 years old looking at these grown women. But they were my type. I realized as a child growing up, I had a preference and a type, There were girls at school that were black that I thought were very cute. Some were prim and proper. Some was very cute. And I've had a couple of little crushes and so forth, Just like, Google eyes, just like any other little kid does, right? Because that was just my environment at that time. We used to go out of town a lot. My dad wanted us to see the world. And I think I told you guys on the last episode that we used to ride in the RV and we would ride around the country and Canada and Mexico and different places in California. And the reason why my father did that, because he wanted us to see the whole country and the world, that everything wasn't just considered as black and white living in the South, right? And shout out to my father for doing that, because I got a chance to see all types of people from different backgrounds, I mean, it was just a culture change for me in the mid to late '70s, just from going from the South to New York. That was a change for me. But when you actually go into Canada and all these different places and you meeting all these other different people in the late '70s, that was just different. So moving on. So it happened, guys. And like I stated earlier, just a minute ago, I was in awe of these older women, Olivia Newton-John and all of these different women and so forth. And, at the time, a lot of black men was enamored with, I think her name was Jane Kennedy. She was a sports interviewer, black lady, and she was married to Leon Isaac Kennedy. Very pretty black lady. You had Vonetta McGee. You had all these beautiful black women back then. Uh, Most black guys during that time was into Pam Grier. They definitely was into Pam Grier. Pam Grier was put on a pedestal back then. And also the lady that played as Thelma on Good Time. Those two women were just like in the black neighborhood. Black men loved those two women. Thelma from Good Time, and they loved Pam Grier. Vonetta McGee and all those type of women. Those, great actresses and so forth. But for me, I was into, the Jenny Lee Harrisons, all Sharon Tates, all of those type of women. Those were the women that I had a preference for in my personal life. And a lot of times when people hear, especially when black men have preferences, because for whatever reason, and I know the reason why, and I'll get in that to another commentary, we're like the black sheep out of the family. We're supposed to be idle, the bucks of America, not have an opinion, not supposed to have any feelings. We just bucks, slaves, mentally. We're supposed to just like one type of women, and that's it. Anything else, you hate your own race and all this other nonsense. And I noticed that about a lot of people, especially and sometimes with some people in the black community. If you say you have a preference for another race, it's because, oh, who hurt you? Who did you wrong? Blah, 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 this and that. And it's always a reason that somebody's got to always explaining why they having a reason for another race. And it's always because somebody did you wrong in your own race, when really and truly it has nothing to do with that, 100%. For some people, yes. I tried to find me a good black woman, or I tried to find me a good black man, but there ain't no good black woman, or there is no good black man out there. And to say something idiotic like that is it's not good. It's infallible. It's not good, because every race has its good and bad people in it, and everybody has good and bad in them, intentions. So for someone to say that there's not any good black women out there or good black men, something's wrong with you. There's a lot of great black people out there. There's a lot of beautiful, great black women out there, as well as great black men, right? That are beautiful inside and out. But when you have a preference, sometimes, guys, it's just, you just like the person for themselves. Does that make any sense? That's just what you like. And it is what it is. And I notice in our society, if you say that you're, you live, if you live in a homosexual lifestyle, everybody accepts that. Straight off the rip, they accept it. You don't have to say it anymore. But once you, especially as a black person, say that you like a different type of ladies, men, and men, you have a preference for white females or Hispanic or Asian or whatever, or straight off the rip, they look at you like you hate your own race and who hurt you. And none of that has nothing to do with anything. It's just a preference, guys. That's all it is. That's all it is. Well, you're going to get your black wake-up call and all this other nonsense, right? And then they use the fear tactics and all this other stuff, It's kind of like voting for that Democratic Party that does nothing for black folks, but we ain't going to go into that. And using scare tactics to get them to vote for nothing. But that's neither here or there, Can't pay me to be a Democrat. I'm an independent. But anyway, or at least not anymore. Because I've learned there's little games that they play on us as black people. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. So what happened was, and I know I'm all over the place, guys, but I'm going to bring it on home. The year 1980 or 81, I think I had said this in a past commentary. There was this girl that came on TV. And she came on TV with her mom. And this was a Saturday. And it was on Phil Donahue? Phil Donahue show. Phil Donahue. And I was about 11, 12 years old, guys, and this girl was talking about this upcoming movie that she's got coming out, and she was a couple of years old, maybe 3 years older than me. She was like 13, no, she was about 14, and I was about 11 or 12. And it was all of us kids. I'll never forget it. We were all congregated into this TV watching the Phil Donahue show. And he introduced her. And she came out with her mom. And I'll never forget the look that I had when my first time I saw Brooke Shields on TV. And she had these beautiful blue eyes, and she had this long, gorgeous hair, and she just, this beautiful, just everything about her smile was just radiant. And I got stung, guys. I got struck. That was my first night. She had movies before that called Little Baby and all that stuff, but I've never seen those films before. You know, I've seen other films from the 70s. I forgot her name, Jodie something, but I was never attracted to her like that. I was just, just watching movies and stuff. But they said, yeah, she's been out for years, but I never paid attention to her. Never paid attention to her. And I used to watch movies and TV shows all the time. Little House on the Prairie and all that kind of stuff. But I had never seen this girl before, ever. And immediately I was just struck. I was just there on the TV, and I can feel the heat on the back of my neck. And I was like 11, 12-year-old kid. And all these people, young people and adults, were looking straight at me, guys. They were just looking at me like, here's the test right here. And they acknowledged that Brooke Shields was a very gorgeous girl, but they was just trying to see my reaction by me looking at that TV. And I just couldn't keep my eyes off her. And they went into the interview, and, Phil Donahue was talking, and I can remember saying, okay, at some point I'm going to have to turn and look at everybody that's looking at me. And, I can vaguely remember just little things, not everything. And I remember seeing the smiles of people say, see, I knew it. I knew, Tim. Girl, I knew. And guys, little boys were smiling, and, my little friends from the hood, and they were just neighborhood, and they was just like, yeah, we knew it. And grown people were just looking at me because they were trying to figure me out. And I had to come to Jesus moment at that point, and I just had to be honest with myself. And I remember blurting out something saying, wow, she's a gorgeous girl. I couldn't backpedal. I couldn't say, oh, she's all right. Now, I had did that previous years before because we went to some kind of event in the 70s, and I had to walk this girl down this aisle. It was like kids come together, and people have noticed how attractive this one little girl was that I was with when I was in the first grade, and she was in the first grade, blonde-haired girl. And I had denied, oh, she was all right and stuff. But this time I just couldn't, at the age of 11 or 12 years old, I couldn't just deny the facts, guys. once you're honest with yourself and you're honest with the people around you, people kind of, even if they don't agree with it, they kind of respect it, and it's kind of like all the anticipation is gone now. And I just lived my life from there. So when I got into high school, yes, I did date black females for a while. These were predominantly black schools. I also went to the skill center as a part of that. So I went to regular high school, and then when I got in the 10th through 12th, or yeah, I took a trade. You can either work, you had a work program back in the 80s, or you can do a trade. And so when I graduated from high school in the later part of the 80s, I graduated with a high school diploma, and I graduated from the skill center with a trade. And then with that trade was it was printing and graphic arts, and it helped me land a job. And also I remember back in high school, I was working for this graphic arts where I was the youngest person. I think I was like 16, 17 years old, excuse me. And everybody else was like 22 and up. And I was like 16 years old. And I used to come in with the little Prince curly hair. And I had the little Prince, my dad army jacket. And it had the little beads. And I had the beads on there because I wanted to be a part of the Prince revolution and stuff like that. So, I had the little curl like the barge and all that. It was the 80s looking. You had your little spike stuff. And the little teenage girls used to like me around there and stuff. And I thought I was Mr. Cool and all that. But so that's neither here or there. But I got a job in my field when I was a teenager, and that was pretty cool. And I got a chance. We were standing outside, unfortunately, when the shuttle blew up, and we didn't know what was happening until the news came on and told the school. I was standing outside watching this happen, when the shuttle blew up in '86. So I've seen a lot, guys. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So what happened was I found myself liking the little biracial girls, the cute, pretty little biracial girls. It was one girl that was in another school down the street, about 2 miles, maybe 3 miles away from where the school I was going to. Her mother was white and her dad was black, and I had a crush on her. And she wound up, I heard years later, marrying a guy that looked just like me. I want to say he was a football player, but I'm not sure about that. But he looked just like me. He was just a bigger version of me. And I just found myself, just trying to compensate. Because for one thing, I was very shy. Even though I used to perform in music and arts and so forth, I was a very shy person. And I found myself compensating for girls that actually look white, than actually trying to date females. Not because that was white, not because I was afraid of racism or none of that. It's just, I was just, at the time it was just lazy and convenient for me, to be honest with you. So moving on through the 80s, we had got the Jacksonville landing here, and I did a performance arts under this hairstylist called Decalores, and I was a teenager then. And I did an opening Michael Jackson's show where I danced for the Bad Thing, and I know that's on a reel somewhere. And I can never forget all of these girls was when I did the little Michael Jackson dance, and I was a buck 130 at the time, and I did the Michael Jackson dance, and I remember all of these girls coming to me for doing that little show for the opening of the Jacksonville landing at that time. And I just remember that feeling, guys, and I had a lot of white females that were for my picking. And I was just dancing for a hair show for a local TV spot. And this was before I started traveling and doing song and dance and playing in all these plays and so forth. So later on, I met this girl, and I'm gonna say her name is Jenny, but I forgot her name. She actually came into my life, and she had a flower in her hair. And the funny thing about it is, she actually did look like Jenny Lee Harris. That was the most funniest thing ever. She didn't look like her. She just reminded you of her. She had a big smile, a big heart, and we met at a junior college. And I was in the performing arts, and we used to go to lunch together. I think she used her dad's second used car or something like that. And we dated and stuff. Mainly we seen each other at the school. Mainly, I would walk her to class, and then after class she would watch me perform, and then we'd go to the cafeteria, get something to eat, and we just hung out. They had like a little hangout area outside, and we would just talk and just hold hands. And this was in the 80s, guys. And people saw that I liked that girl a lot. She was a white female, and I really liked this girl. And I really had intentions of marrying this girl. Then one day, we was preparing to do some play. And before the play started, they had this guy who was kind of like a Billy Ocean's look-alike, for you guys who know Billy Ocean. And he was performing Suddenly, the song. It was a love song called Suddenly by Billy Ocean at that time. And he was prepared to do that. And so they was telling us, getting us all prepared and stuff like that. And it was a girl came up to me, it was a black girl. She said, such and such, well, I call her Jenny. She's not here no more. And I was like, what do you mean? The director said that she and her family had moved somewhere up north. And I was like, really? And see, teenagers hear things and blah, blah, blah. And I thought she didn't actually move up north. I think she was in the process of moving up north. So I had her home phone number, and this is before the cell days, guys, cell phone days and the pre-beeper days, I just called she was down here living with her grandma. That's what it was. She was living with her grandma, and her parents live up north. And her grandmama said, yes, she had left a couple of days ago and so forth. And I left my name and number with her, but never heard from her again. And it was just one of those things, guys, in life. And as I went through life, guys, and, journeyed on and so forth, I thought about her over the years. And I've had a lot of dating experiences, especially when I went to the club, when clubs started being a thing, throughout the whole country, And I traveled, and I was doing my song and dance with my groups, and, I've had a lot of interracial experiences, love relationships with different women, including women of my own race, but mainly it was interracial relationships, some for the good and some for the bad. And then, I met my ex-wife when I was in college, I actually turned down a Swedish girl for my wife, and another girl who worked at a jewelry store for my ex-wife, And it is what it is with a relationship. That, we had 4 beautiful kids that are now grown. And, I still have the respect for her and love for her as far as being the mother of my children, even though she's moved on and married, a nice gentleman that I personally like. He is from a different country, but I have nothing but love and respect for him. And this is where I'm at. I'm a divorced man for many, many years now, and I have 4 adult, beautiful children. And I have a couple of, well, 3 grandchildren. I have 2 granddaughters and 1 grandson. There was a lot of stuff that I left out, little details and so forth. But the main thing is, guys, you have to live your life. Life is too short to worry about what people think. It is way too short. And if you have preferences for a different race, let me put it that way, you shouldn't have to explain nothing to nobody. It is what it is. People are going to always come up to you and call you names and say that you're putting down the black race and all this other nonsense, and people on the other side, they're saying the same thing towards the person that is a different race and that you're putting down their race as well. But the bottom line is, guys, you have to look at life and live it the way you are, because the people that's putting you down and calling you all kinds of names and so forth, you can better believe that they're living their life the way they want to live it. You can bet your bottom dollar that they're living their life the way they want to live it. You better not say nothing about their life the way they live it. That's why I tell people to live your life. If you're not hurting anybody, live your life the way you want to live it, and quit trying to explain to people why you dating this person or that person. It is what it is, guys. I could have went into more details about interracial relationship, but it was just, and maybe I need to have a part 3 to this, but next week I'm not going to do that. I'm going to move on to something else. But in the future, I think I will make a part 3, but I don't know when. It's not going to be on the Love Thursdays, though. It's going to just be a random video that I'm going to just post and so forth. But, I can remember, guys, when I went to Canada in 81 as a young teenage boy, or 82, 81, when I was 13 years old and met a French girl, and it was just different, guys. It was just different. My first time doing that. And, when I was in Quebec or Ontario, wherever that was at the time, and we was at a campground, I can remember the French father was like, he was telling his daughter, who was the same age as I was, feed him, make sure that he's comfortable eating the food and stuff. And I wasn't used to that, guys. And she was this cute little girl, we were both the same age, we were both 13. And she was making sure I had all the food that I wanted. She smiled. She was asking me how America was, and, all of this different stuff. And as I went through a teenage age and we traveled again, as I got older, 15 and 16, I just explored the country and the world, a different way. And it's just, I understand why the passport bros feel the way that they do, because once you leave out of this matrix, guys, it's a whole different world. And I'm especially talking to my black brothers. You are loved outside of here. I knew about this way back in the 80s and late 70s as a little kid. Nobody never had to tell me that. I already knew. It was just hard to convince other people And you don't have to like what I like, you know. You can like other black women from other countries and other continents, the continent of Africa. You can like Spanish women, Afro Latinos, or whatever, Asian, whatever you're into. You don't have to like what I like. But my whole point is that we just need to learn how to respect other people's decisions. Because the truth of the matter is that God holds the key to everybody's lives. Race is an American thing, okay? To sit up here and this is the most silliest, stupidest thing people say, and I hear it from all races. Our race is gonna dry up and we're gonna be annihilated. That's the dumbest thing I ever hear in the world. If God's in control, okay, and if we're the chosen people of Yah, and if our DNA is the strongest one in the world, why the hell are you worried about who I'm dealing with? If anything, it's going to make our race get bigger. Because like I said, from a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman, I was able to produce 4 black kids. 4. 2 boys and 2 girls. And when people look at my daughters, they look at them as pretty black women. So how's that getting rid of the race? I can see if I was white, you know, and but even with that, guys, you know, there is no such thing as a race annihilation because God's in control, right? And I honestly believe that God would not. The reason why He made us different, and this is just my personal belief, is because He wanted to see how we would get along and love each other and respect each other if we look different and if our cultures were different. Would we still have that same love? And no, He never said one race is better than the other. It's us as humans that says that. Just think on that for a second. Meditate on it. And acknowledge it. And with that being said, guys, I want to thank you guys for part 2 on Love Thursdays of Interracial Love, part 2, the positive side, even though I got a little emotional with some things. I'm going to put out a part 3 to this, but it's not going to be on a Love Thursday. Next Thursday, I'm going to move on to something else. Another relationship topic. But I am going to put a part 3 out randomly, just speaking on the subject, okay? And if you guys enjoy the commentary that I have, I do ask them, please consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the like button, also hitting that notification button. That way you'll know when new content is being presented to you. Also, guys, share with other like-minded people like yourself. And remember, I'm not just Tim, but I'm Tim's on demand. All right, guys. I love talking about this subjects and subject matters like this. That's relatable. But I'm going to just go ahead and meditate on today's subject matter. And I suggest you do the same thing, okay? So with that also being said, go ahead and let yourself out. Go ahead. Open the door. Let yourself out. Pull it to. And don't let those critters and flies come in, okay? Well, I guess it's fall time, so I think it's not going to be that many flies. But anyway, I want you guys to have a safe and happy Thursday. Just think about and meditate on what I stated to you guys, because I will put out another video on this. Trust me and believe me, I'm going to put it on you, okay? And until I see you guys again, I want you guys to have a great afternoon, great evening, and a great night. And I'll see you guys on the next one, okay? And thank you guys very, very much for taking the time to listen to a very small portion of my personal life. And that time goes by fast. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next one.